purpose of this presentation will be to give you my expectations for how to write a film analysis the Harkins way. The first part we'll go over will be the introduction, then the body, and of course the conclusion. So, like any other paper you have ever written, the first thing you're going to want to have in your introduction is going to be an attention-grabbing statement, or the hook. I think this is what they call it in your literary classes. The very first thing that you include to get your audience interested in reading your paper should be an exciting sentence. You don't want to write, "I had to watch this movie and this is what it was about." That's not exciting, so don't write that. Some examples are startling facts or statistics, quotations, a verbal picture, an anecdote. I've attached a document on Blackboard that gives you all sorts of different ideas and explicit examples and what not to do. So please view this as you begin writing your analyses. The next thing you're going to want to do, provide a little bit of background, okay? A brief summary of the film, no more than 2 to 3 sentences. Remember, I've seen this movie. I've seen this movie every semester for the last 5 years, so I don't need that much background, all right? I get it. I'm going to watch it with you guys next week. Brief. Here's a really important part. So, for this film analysis, you'll need to pick a relationship between two characters, the main protagonist and somebody else. So you need to tell me in your introduction which two characters you are going to be studying. So you'll say, it depends on the film, so I have to be very vague here. You say the main character and his sister, the main character and his friend, whatever it is, but you'll use their names because you'll know what they are by the time we watch the movie. Finally, you want to make sure you have a thesis statement that previews the main theories and concepts that you have chosen from the textbook. So you're going to watch the film, it's going to remind you of interpersonal communication and these particular concepts, and then you're going to tell us what those concepts you've chosen to analyze are. So here's an example. In this analysis, I'm going to discuss how attachment styles, world-mindedness, and attributional errors can be observed in the relationship between the main character and his sister. See, look what I did there. 3 and 4 became one single sentence, though feel free to do those separately. Now that we've talked about what my expectations are for the introductions, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the expectations are for writing the body, aka the meat and potatoes of your analysis. This is really the bulk of your analysis and should be at least 3 to 3.5 pages. Relatively speaking, your introduction will be 3/4 of a page to a page. The body will be about 3 to 3.5 pages, kind of having one theory or main point per page with multiple explanations, and then your conclusions should be about 3/4 of a page to a page long. So when you break it down like that, 5 pages will go by quickly. But again, this should be the heart of your paper. So you're going to want to keep a few things in mind and make sure that you do at least these 4 things that I'm about to lay out for you for the body. So for each main point, you're going to want to do this to help you really flesh out what you're trying to talk about between the two characters that you've chosen for your analysis or to study within the film. So the first thing you want to do is define that theory or term or principle that you're using per the textbook. Here's an example how I would start a paragraph where I was going to be talking about self-awareness. After you define, you want to make sure you cite that per the textbook as well. And depending on if you prefer MLA or APA, that'll look differently. The great thing about MLA is you just have to remember to use a page number. You don't have to remember a comma or anything else. Whereas APA, if you're really good at paraphrasing, you don't even have to know a page number. You just have to know the year. But if you're using a direct quotation, you most certainly need a page number for that citation. The next thing you want to do is exemplify. What I mean by this is provide an example All right, you're going to define the term, you're going to give us a citation, and then you're going to give us an example from the film of a character using that principle, or you see that within the character. You know, maybe this is a Johari window situation. They're oblivious to it, but you can see it. Whatever it is, give us an explanation after you give us an example. So, again, I got ahead of myself there, but yes, so you want to exemplify and then explain. And then this is where you give us your analysis. Why do you think this is the way it is? You need to give a little bit more than just a definition and an example, right? There's not much of a paper there. This is where your thoughts come into play. So the explanation is just as important as anything else here. So you'll do that for each and every paragraph or every term that you use. All of your paragraphs should start that way, or at least your paragraph where you're leading into a main point. And then you aren't limited to these 3 terms. The bare minimum is to include 3 concepts or theories. Realistically, there's more that you'll see going on within the film than just those 3 theories. Trust me, if you're having any issues thinking of some, come see me, I'll help you out. The larger the theory is, the more you'll have to talk about. That makes sense, right? Like attachment styles, there's 4 different parts, whereas if you just talk about one attachment style, same goes for Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Again, I don't expect you to only use these 2 terms either. I'm giving these as examples. I don't want every single one of your papers to use Maslow's hierarchy and attachment styles. Now that we've talked about expectations for the introduction and the body of the film critique, here we're going to talk about exactly what you need to have in your conclusion to give a sense of bringing it on home. So, at the bare minimum, your conclusion should have a restatement of the thesis. Exactly how you formatted your thesis statement, stating your 3 main points, and the relationship you studied, or you wanted to study in the introduction. You do the same here, using slightly different wording. Next, you're going to want to tell me, what have you learned? What did you think of the film? And you'll do this by answering the following questions of what you liked or disliked, what you learned from watching the film and completing the analysis, and do you think it's an appropriate film for studying interpersonal communication, and why or why not? Also, feel free to share your own ideas of what you think another great film would be as well. Finally, you want to leave the audience with something. In the same way that you grabbed their attention in the beginning with the hook by using a quotation or an illustration or something of that sort, you want to do the same thing here to leave the reader with a sense of fulfillment and closure. If you follow these steps for writing an introduction, body, and conclusion, you'll be sure to get an A on this film analysis. Good luck!